Call this morning's meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I would move. Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next thing is citizens to be heard. I don't see anybody in the audience, but do we have any calls or?
Mr. Chair, I did receive an email like at 7:30 this morning about someone interested to speak this morning, but I do not see them here this morning. I will reach out to them after the board meeting today and talk to them about a future date.
Very good, thank you. With that, we'll go on to the approval of the payment of bills and vouchers.
Move for approval.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the bills and vouchers. Any further discussion on them? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we got minutes from March 7th. Need to be approved.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of March 2nd. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Corey, first on the list there, with the request approved for additional funds for a solid waste trailer.
Good morning. We got the final numbers for the transfer trailer that we went and purchased. They came in a little bit higher than what we talked about the last meeting, so the auditors want us to come back and get the exact numbers on record. So essentially, the trailer came in at $106,414, which was about $76 higher than what we thought, and then sales tax was $6,916.91, and licensing fee of $125. So the grand total for the whole new trailer was $113,455.91. So I'm looking for a motion to approve that amount.
What did we approve before?
$106,338. Essentially, we didn't have the sales tax and licensing on that.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the final amount.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yeah.
Just a question, and then we'll find out what you get for the other trailer, right?
Yes, that will actually go on an online website shortly. I've been offered $45,000 for it, so that'll be the minimum price. And that was within our budget of what we were approved, so.
Does the county always have to pay sales tax? Do we always pay sales tax?
We do, Mr. Chair, on the vehicles we pay.
I'll have to work on a break there somewhere. Okay, we've got a motion and a second to purchase a trailer or to change the price of the trailer. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
all right. And that will go to Kim, get our annual update on the recorder's office. Good morning, Kim.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. I'm here today to present my annual report for the Recorder's Office. The mission statement of the Recorder's Office is to promptly record, file, and preserve documents accurately in an efficient, responsible, and professional manner for posterity and legal purposes. The areas of responsibility that we have in the Recorder's Office is recording of the real estate documents, issuing of birth certificates, death certificates, marriage license, filing marriage credentials, filing notary public registration, and recording state and federal tax liens. The Recorder's Office consists of 4 people. I have myself with a chief deputy and 2 deputy recorders. In 2022, we saw a decrease in the number of documents recorded compared to the last 2 years. Even with the decrease, it kind of put our office back down to where we were prior to COVID for recording. And right now, we have kept an increase in our e-recording, so about 75% of our documents are presented to us electronically. In 2022, we recorded 10 plats. In Dilworth, Hawley, and Moorhead, they were a mix of both residential and commercial plats. One of the services that we do offer is called Property Fraud Alert. It's a free online service offered to the public that allows them to have their name monitored in the recorder's office to track any fraudulent recordings that could affect their property. So it's monitored by their name and not necessarily the tax parcel or the property legal description. So it doesn't prevent the document from being recorded, but it can provide an early notice to them if something fraudulent were to happen. So if people are interested, there is no charge for that. And they can register at www.propertyfraudalert.com/mnclay. And then they're notified by either email or by a phone call when something comes up with their name on it. One of the other items that I'm excited to get back to after the pandemic is the meetings of our local, PRIA local chapter. So I collaborate with the recorder in Cass County and local title and abstract companies in the area. We hold meetings and educate the public on different things going on in our office, and we can kind of have conversation to figure out how to work together between the private sector and the government offices. Our next meeting is this Thursday, March 23rd, and it'll be at Moorhead City Hall. And we're trying to have those meetings 2 times a year. Continue to issue birth certificates for anyone born in Minnesota. They are $26 and can be issued on the spot in most circumstances. In 2022, we issued almost 1,200 birth certificates. Death certificates are the same. We could issue them statewide for anybody who passes away in Minnesota and can also be issued on the spot in most circumstances.
Excuse me, just,
Yeah.
all those birth certificates issued, aren't they born in Fargo though, in the hospitals in Fargo, or?
Right, so we don't have a hospital here, so anyone born in Fargo would have to request that through North Dakota, but we can still issue records here for people born anywhere in the state. So if they live here in the Fargo-Moorhead area, but were maybe born in St. Louis County or Hennepin County, we can issue those records.
You got to remember, Mr. Chair, that some of us are old enough to be born in Moorhead because it was a hospital.
And I just realized it was sort of a dumb question, but
And it was 1987, I believe it was about when the
I
hospital.
was just looking at newborns and that, I expand my thoughts a little bit here. Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Another document that's often requested is the certified marriage certificate. That's often needed along with the birth record for the process of applying for a real ID. That real ID deadline was extended again, and now it's in May of 2025 that will be required. In 2022, we issued 593 marriage licenses. Summer and fall continue to be our busiest times in the recorder's office between the increase of marriage license applications and recording of real estate documents. In slower times this year, we've been working on projects that include back indexing. We have documents that were recorded before computers, so all that information was detailed in books. My staff is looking at those images and computer indexing all of that information. So it's a big project to take on, but slowly but surely we're working on it. So I'd like to thank my staff for all of their hard work this last year. That completes my presentation for my update. Do you guys have any questions for the recorder's office?
Yes, go ahead.
Just a comment. I met with Kim here earlier in looking at compliance and looking at these anticipated requests. And I really just want to give an overall endorsement of the great job you do. We are always in compliance. The things where innovation is possible, you make it happen. And you come forward with very reasonable and well substantiated, which is probably going to be the next part of your presentation, but very well substantiated requests. And I think you make the job of the commission awfully easy because your requests are always reasonable and your performance and the performance of your people is exceptional. So I'm going to throw that out right on the front end because I think it's a genuine thing that my fellow commissioners are probably aware of, but if they aren't, we can have an argument here.
Thank you.
Well, Steve, I think your evaluation's done for the year now. Huh? Okay.
Any other questions for my department update?
Anybody with any other questions? Must have covered it pretty good there then, Kim. Thank you. Okay, we'll go on with some of the other things you've got then, unless you got something else on that?
No, I do not.
Okay. Now, you've also got a request for approval of expenses of the Land Records Department.
Yes, so I'm here today to report on the compliance fund for the Recorder's Office. Under Minnesota statute, we must return at least 90% of all recordable instruments back to the submitter within 10 business days. So our office has met those standards laid out in statute. Since we are following the statute, the county board is authorized to use those dollars to support the recording process and data integration projects. And in doing that, we have the committee met at the beginning of March and have decided to use the same as we've done in years past. So it would be $15,000 for the tax system maintenance, $40,000 for our corner remonumentation program, $37,350 for information services, and $12,650 for our assessor software maintenance. So that brings a grand total of $105,000. That has been what we've consistently used over the past number of years out of the compliance fund into the budget for 2024.
The remonumentation program, how long is that going to be going on? How long are we
Years.
looking at doing this yet?
Years.
Years, okay.
So we've started in the southeast corner of the county, which was the most difficult corner to do because of the terrain, and had the least amount of corners already established. So as we move north and west in the county, it will go faster, especially with the diversion coming. There is going to be a lot of surveying already being completed on the western side. But, excuse me, I can't even remember the number of years we've been doing this, and I think we have 4 townships completed.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would move the $105,000 Land Records Department.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the request. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. And now we'll move on to out-of-state travel for you.
Yeah, I'm here today to request approval for out-of-state travel. My software vendor is holding an educational symposium May 22nd to the 23rd in Iowa. So they typically provide an allowance for travel for me, which in the past has covered most of my airline ticket. Any additional expenses would be coming out of my travel budget. So I would be looking for approval for that today.
It's too bad you couldn't talk them into having your training somewhere more fun, but I would
Iowa, yeah.
certainly make a motion to approve your request.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the travel request. Any discussion?
Maybe the motion could be to move it.
I think recorders probably think I was fun.
No comment.
If we got no good requests here, we'll move on. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Okay, now we'll move on to marriage credential filing fee.
So I have a chart here up on the slideshow for you too, to kind of a visual. I'm here to request a fee increase for an individual to file their marriage credentials in the recorder's office. Under Minnesota statute, a person performing a marriage ceremony within the borders of Minnesota has to file a copy of their credentials or their certificate of ordination with a local registrar in a county of this state. And then the local registrar issues a certificate of filing that shows when and where those credentials were filed. In August of 2005, the responsibility of filing the marriage credentials moved from the court administrator's office to the county recorder's office. The filing fee of $20 was established at that time, and it has been that same fee ever since it was set by the county board back in 2005. In 2006, the recorder's office filed 30 of these marriage credentials. In 2015, we exceeded 100 certificate filings, and in 2022, we exceeded 200 filings. In 2022, so that's 1 marriage credential filed for every 2.2 marriage licenses that were issued, or excuse me, 2.92. We often hear from people filing their marriage credentials that a friend or family member asked them to perform the ceremony, and they have no intention of performing any other weddings in their future. So with this, because of the increase of filing, we're having to field many more questions on how to get these certificates of credentials filed. And also, we have to provide a lot more education because they have a lot more questions on what they're doing. It's not the same people performing marriages every weekend. It's almost a different person every few weddings. And then when the certificates get returned to us, often they're not filled out completely, so then we're having to follow back up with them and make sure that everything gets recorded so that we can file the certificate and issue the couple their certified marriage certificate. So that additional education and follow-up has created additional work for my staff, and the reason I feel a fee increase is needed at this time to cover the cost of filing those marriage credentials. So I would be requesting that the fee be increased to $40, and that increase would be effective May 1st of 2023.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's really important. I know I've been verbal on this board about making sure we're looking at our fees and having them appropriate for the staff time that it takes to process through. Obviously, there's, I think we've talked about, there are budgets that cover what the work needs to be done, but particularly when you see a increase in the requests, it really does warrant some looking at it. And I think you're right. Most people that go through the long-term credential process and have an ordination understand the paperwork because of the coursework that it takes to get to that point. So we're not really talking about the additional workload that it takes for those type of applications. I think what you're talking about, and you explained quite well, is those that are coming to you incomplete or filled out wrong. So I appreciate that you've looked carefully at it. I question a little bit if it really will cover the increase that it takes. I think doubling a fee though is a big change, and I think we'll look at what it takes over the next year if it's appropriately covering what you're seeing.
Yeah, and there is potential legislation coming through regarding marriage officiants, and so I'm not sure the direction that that's headed right now, so that could increase our workload too, depending on how that legislation pulls through.
And maybe I have a different understanding of it just because I am the parent or the daughter of two people that have been ordained. And so, maybe going forward, maybe you offshoot it a little bit, that you have your folks that are officiant because they've been ordained and they fall in an application fee this way. And then, maybe we have it two-tiered, and obviously don't want to discriminate different applications, but certainly there are different processing that happens with that.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing is people are going and getting ordained through an online church. And so they're still technically an ordained minister.
Right.
It's maybe
Different.
an online church versus a local brick and mortar building.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. Kevin?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Kim. I was reading through your other requests for your fee increases too, and I noticed it in those, for example, your next one you're going to talk about, you said the fee increase will cover the cost of producing the report. You did mention that verbally in this one. And I think that's the most important thing that we have to remember, is that we need to try to keep our fees associated with the cost to deal with them. We certainly shouldn't be in the business of making money on these types of things. So I think it's very appropriate. I think as Commissioner Mojo said, I think maybe the fact that we waited from 2005 to now to make the change, I think maybe we need to review those a little bit more often to stay up with the actual cost of and that's difficult to even gauge at all times, You might have one application that might cost you $38, another one might be $42 in actual time, but we don't want to be having to deal with that either.
Right. Yeah, it's difficult to know because sometimes even people that have filled out marriage licenses, they may enter a wrong date on there. And so we follow up with that too to make sure that the date on the certificate is actually the date the couple said they were going to get married. And so it's just a wide range of.
We don't hear a lot about these things from our constituents, but sometimes we might hear a question, well, why am I paying this fee when I'm paying my property taxes? And there's a level of expectation in how they pay their property taxes thing, but these are basically services that go to an individual's wants and needs as opposed to a requirement that everybody has throughout the county. And that's why we establish those fees. So,
Okay, thank you. Dave?
Yeah, Commissioner Campbell stole part of my observation here, and you'll see it in the upcoming requests as well. It's one thing to establish a fee in order to try and generate revenue, and I think we're all uncomfortable with that. These are to meet expenses that are genuine and are documented. And it kind of surprised me when Kim described the number of people that have come in and gotten certified to conduct weddings. But since our meeting, 2 weeks ago, I've met 2 people that have done that. And I think it's getting to be more of a common practice, and we need to make sure that we not only respond to the evaluations of the expense we see now, but continue to monitor the situation and address, if there's further needs, address it with considerations on how to meet that. This is, I think, what people pay for weddings in a lot of different areas. People are making a lot of money on it. We're not. We're just trying to pay the bills for our employees that provide the service. So with that, I will move that we approve this request.
second.
Okay. Excuse me, Jenny, did you have a question?
No.
Okay. Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the request to increase the fee from $20 to $40. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we got that one taken care of.
Thank you.
Next one is request approval to increase the activity report fee.
So I am here to request the activity report fee be increased. So each week, our office publishes an activity report that we publish on the county website that's available to subscribers for an annual fee of $260. This report lists all transfers, mortgage, miscellaneous liens, tax liens, and releases and satisfactions in a nice PDF format for them. The report has been generated by the Recorder's Office for the past 20 years. I'm not exactly sure when the price increased to $260, but it was before my time for sure as recorder. And I'd say maybe 10 years. I was able to find in 2006 that the fee was $240. So I'm here before you today to request the fee be increased to an annual fee of $300 starting in 2024. So the report is not mandated to produce, it's just a service we offer to subscribers. So I feel the increase is needed to cover the cost of producing that report.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
what is the total number of subscribers that you have?
5.
Oh, minimal. Make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the request to increase the fee. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you got that one passed too.
Thank you.
Well, you're doing a year's work here, okay. Oh, you got one more here. This request approval for the Laredo fee.
Yes, so this is my last request here this morning. This would be a brand-new fee that's not been on my fee schedule previously. So I'm requesting a Laredo reactivation fee of $100. Laredo is my online subscription that people subscribe to access the recorded real estate documents. It's kind of meant to be like on a monthly basis. You pay every month. I have some people that subscribe, and then I might have a hard time getting a hold of them for payment, or they only want to subscribe for a short project here and there. Each time I have to reset them up, I have to set them all up brand new. I have to make a payment arrangements. I have to follow up with them at the end to collect any payment for fees. So if they don't keep that subscription ongoing, it's a lot of extra work that is generated for me to do. And that program contains all of our recorded documents back to the late 1800s. And the fees for the subscription start at $30 a month. So I'm requesting that the reactivation fee be set at $100. So if their plan has been terminated or canceled in the past 12 months, that $100 fee would apply to reset up their account.
Is that $100 a month or $100?
Just a one-time $100 fee, so that,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yes, Paul?
Similar question as before. So how many roughly subscribers do you get per year? Or is it involved? And also, how many would you expect are canceled out or don't do anything after a year?
So I have over 30 subscribers, and I would say there's maybe one or two a year that I have a problem with trying to get payment or communicate with them to keep their subscription going.
Thank you.
I move for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the Laredo fee. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, if I could, two things to point out. One, I think that there's a number of fee discussions here this morning. I would note, just during our truth and taxation each year, we talk about the fees that we charge our citizens through this process, not just through Kimberly, but through all of our departments. And historically, we are in the bottom percentage of the county as far as our fees. And so I want citizens, as they look today and hear fee increases, we are in the 80th out of 87 number. I don't know it offhand, but I want to say it's 84 out of 87 counties. So just want to make that note. The second thing that I would also like to pass on in regards to Kimberly is from a standpoint of the great work that she does here at the county. She's also a leader, not only just in our region, but in the state of Minnesota and what she does. And so I think that anytime that you have any of our employees going out and being a leader and being someone that people reach out to, not every once in a while, but on a pretty consistent basis, we're fortunate to have her here at Clay County. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much there, Kim, and for your work and another good report. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Have a nice
Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if Justin's out there or not, or... Pardon? Okay. Oh, we're not there yet. Okay, excuse me. Well, we got, he's on the next two, and the extension isn't here.
I can do my report quick.
Okay, we can do, instead of committee reports, we think we're going to have vacation reports this week, so. No, if you got a committee report, go ahead there.
Thank you. 2 weeks ago, attended the Lakes and Prairies Executive Director Performance Review. The evaluation of the Executive Director, Lori Schwartz, had taken place with the management team and the entire board, and she continues to receive very high remarks and ratings from all the folks that work with her. Also kind of off the review of Kimberly, she is one of those that also is paving the way and leading at a state level, so our community can be quite proud of the work that she is doing. She's really elevated the agency. I had the Extension Committee meeting that Wednesday. Good reports. It was noted, as you may have seen there in the paper, Randy Nelson reported that emerald ash borer has been discovered in Moorhead trees. That's something that he's coordinating and collaborating with the forestry department at the city of Moorhead. But I did feel it would likely be beneficial to have a report to this board on what that discovery means and how we will mitigate it. Certainly, that is not desirable, but we have always known that that's something that is likely to happen with those trees. That week, I also had the Metro COG Executive Committee interviews for the executive director. We had a candidate meet and greet, and that day I also was able to attend the Transportation Technical Committee meeting. Certainly, we're represented by our planning and highway department at that, but really good to hear the technical folks discuss the transportation improvement program, the Greenway study, really great planning for what the Red River Greenway can be. I know there's some offshoot conversations about potential, the diversion plan for what that green space will be, if there will be trails and parks incorporated in that, and talked about urban grant and regional road programs. Interesting, there was a bicycle and pedestrian count report. They'd really, we are seeing community-wide huge use of our bikeways and sidewalks, even in the winter. As you can probably guess, the largest use in the city of Fargo sidewalks would be the St. Patrick's Day parades and downtown arts. What is that? No, I'm gapping. What is that huge thing in the crafts festival in the summer? Yes, the street fair. Vacation mode, sorry. My brain is not here. But did have good agency reports. I did mention again our desire to have a MAT bus stop outside of our new withdrawal management facility. They are still not in favor of that. I think that's something that we really need to continue to communicate the need and the vulnerability of the people using that facility, and how having a stop like that is not only essential, but potentially life-saving. As you all know, we have long winters, and so we will continue to advocate for the importance of that. And then had executive director interviews for MetroCog, and that concludes my report.
Okay, Paul, you got, we still got time. Paul, you want to do yours?
Be happy to. So on last Wednesday, March 15th, we had our Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County monthly meeting. And just wanted to point out that last month, City of Moorhead awarded Mark Peel the Moorheart Award. And so as a step from that, Mark came to our board and gave a presentation. He's always very interesting to listen to and so full of knowledge for our county. Anyway, he talked a little more about the work he's doing locally, as well as he's getting to be known internationally, and he told us that he's going to be doing a presentation in mid-September over in Norway at the Vest Telemark Museum for some work that he's done here locally in Clay County. So we'll be hearing a little more about that, but congratulations to Mark for all his good work. Also, going back to 2022, I believe it was, or 21, it's somewhere, it might be 21 actually. Anyway, the Historical Society had put in for a PP refund with the IRS. We'd gotten part of those payments in 2022, but on the forgiveness, but finally, just last week, the last payment of $117,000 came in. That money was already expected to come into the budget, but is now in general reserve. So again, the budget right now with the societies in good and operating shape. The last thing for new business on that, we had a really in-depth review of the history of MSUM. Just going back to what they mean to this community and how it all started back in 1885 with a $60,000 grant from the state, and that was all brought about with, by Senator Comstock at the time. And he, along with that, donated 6 acres that started the normal school in 1888, which at that time had 29 students. And again, it was always a teacher college and remained that way for many years. So that was pretty much, or that was the gist of that monthly meeting. On the, I know it here. On Thursday, the 16th, That morning, we had the annual meeting for the Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Corporation. I, along with Commissioner Ebinger, who was on the executive board, were in attendance at that. Somewhat a follow-up from what we reported last week. The promotion of a regional workforce recruitment program was brought forward. There was probably, I don't know, looked like about 30, 40 people in attendance, so you could see the many parts of that. The Economic Development Corp is working on a new website, and again, a little bit of discussion about fueling our future, which has been going on for the last few years, and in coordination with the Chamber of Commerce, what the next steps are for that. And then I want to just make a comment. Well, maybe I'll leave it at that. Dave, you can add a little more as you want. You'll have more depth as the executive board. I guess one thing that really caught my eye, or ear, I should say, that I was really impressed to hear. I was busy with other things, so I had an interest in attending, but they put on a bioscience summit, and they had people from actually throughout globally come to this thing. And it was 2 days here in Fargo, and I was astounded by the amount of corporate business we already have in the Fargo-Moorhead area. And, you know, I think more popular names are Deveron and Axis, you know, which I think we're very in tune with, but, you know, along with Sanford Research. But there were 18 sponsors of global corporations that are doing a lot of their work now in Fargo. So it's becoming a niche market that I think the Economic Development Corp is looking at and continue to work on for continued business growth throughout our whole area. And so it was very clear that they'd gotten a grant from the state to help this economic development workforce, I should say, and that included nine counties in North Dakota, and then as well as the mention of needing Clay County to be a piece of this. So, and the work that we do with each other in economic development. Later that day, or right after that, I should say, I was part of my first meeting with the annual meeting of the West Central Initiative, and that is economic development. The West region is in West Central Minnesota, involves 9 counties along with the White Earth Reservation. It makes it possible for communities to qualify for federal assistance to help fund infrastructure projects. And the main ones that they were mainly talking about at this point, and we had a presentation on it, is the pathway strategies and the formation of a work plan involving electrical vehicle use and the infrastructure that's going to need to be created to meet the hopes of where EV use goes, as well as having everything in place so there's a good continuum of distribution of infrastructure. And then also real kind of a presentation involving the renewable fuel generation. And again, that's always been a constant, whether that's wind, you know, biofuels, solar, hydrogen, many others. And then I'll kind of piggyback on just a couple of things that Commissioner Mojo just talked about with MetroCog. That was later that day. Again, a final report. There is a video online. If you go toward MetroCog, you'll find it. But on the Greenway, Red River Greenway that she talked about, and as she said, the development of even where the diversion is, there's the beginning now of a 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. That plan is every 5 years. They're at the beginning now of the new one, and just as we finish the old one, and it takes about 18 months to develop. Again, the annual report was given for the bicycle and pedestrian count, which was mentioned. And then I want you to know the city of Moorhead applied through the senators and the House, the U.S. Senate and the House, they got a letter of support to get funding for the potential of the Moorhead Blueston Bridge in the way of $1.2 million. So we'll see where that goes. And then as a follow-up, Commissioner Mojo talked about the job for new executive director. We did approve the offer being made to an individual, and we'll find out in the coming days whether he accepts the offer, and that will replace Cindy Gray, who's been there for a long time. So more to come on that. Then on Friday, March 17th, I had my monthly meeting with the Early Childhood Initiative. We had when we had it on Friday, it was Safe Kids Poison Week. And we had a wonderful presentation by Safe Kids on just preventative things in the home to, be aware of, so that small children aren't taking in toxins and just things to choke on, and certainly, cleaning products, personal care products, medicines, and the one that talked about quite a bit was button batteries. And you don't think about them a lot, but how dangerous they are to young children, and the acid can just totally destroy their esophagus and down in their stomach linings. So that was good. Also, I want to mention on that, they're working on their annual Kids Fest. That will be on May 6th over at the library. Hundreds of people show up for that, and there'll be more news in regards to that. And then last was our meeting yesterday with the Association of Counties at the Resource Center. Our 30 townships, in Clay County, they were well representative. I know everybody here can give a little piece, so I don't want to talk too much, but thank you for our county employees that spoke to their respective departments, giving the township officers good information about what the county is doing, keeping them engaged in the communication. There was a AE2S, engineering company out of Grand Forks, gave a very good presentation on the West Central Regional Watershed District being developed. That initially started up in Climax, up in Polk County, but now the study goes throughout Norman and will go into the upper tier of Clay County. So we'll be getting more information on that here to this board, I'm assuming possibly over the next month. Very good presentation by Sanford Ambulance, formerly known as FM Ambulance, and what they do for our county and for the rural areas, and how they work in collaboration through the dispatch center along with our fire departments and the services outside of Moorhead. And then the Emerald Ash Borer was brought about that, and we'll hear more about how the quarantine will work within Moorhead on that wood, that it shouldn't be transferred out of this area because that's what spreads the disease. So hopefully we can contain it just to Moorhead. And from Soil and Water Conservation, who sells a lot of trees, ash trees no longer are sold as a result. So that's my report.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, with that, we'll go back to our agenda. Justin, I guess we have a bid opening for one of your projects, I think it's County 26, that we'll be working on.
Yes, good morning. So this is for the mill and overlay project on CASA 26. So it goes from CASA 27, 7.5 miles west to CASA 19, which would be the road into Averill. So we did receive 4 online bids today. The first bid was from Mark Sand and Gravel Company out of Fergus Falls. Their bid was $3,659,794.48. $3,659,794.48. The second bid was from Central Specialties Incorporated out of Alexandria. Their bid was $3,576,915.28. $3,576,915.28. The third bid was from R.J. Zavarol and Sons Incorporated out of East Grand Forks. Their bid was $3,291,661.09. $3,291,661.09. And the final bid was Knife River Materials. Their bid was $2,685,145.73. $2,685,145.73. So I do believe these are competitive bids, and I would recommend approval of the low bid of Knife River Materials.
Mr. Chair, I would move the approval subject to a bid review.
Yep.
Second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve Knife River's bid of $2,685,145,000, and 73 cents. Any further discussion? I guess I'd be very concerned about that it's really lower than, that there's a good review done on that one to see that everything's
I
covered.
think that's kind of why I think we have to look at make sure the quantities were.
Yeah.
And it is all online now, so that, like in the past, when we did have paper bids, there was a potential for an error as far as a number being transposed or something. This doesn't allow for that, but I definitely will print out an abstract and review it and make sure there isn't any errors.
Okay, very good. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, we'll go into your update on your highway department.
Yeah, so I'm here for the annual update for the Highway Department. So the mission statement of the Highway Department is, the main objective of the Clay County Highway Department is the construction and maintenance of county highways, bridges, county state aid highways and bridges, and township roads and bridges. The goal of the Highway Department is to ensure that the roadways and bridge structures in Clay County are designed according to federal and state guidelines, constructed according to contract specifications, and properly maintained to ensure the safety of the traveling public. So this is what our organizational chart looks like. So the only opening that we have on this current org chart is the assistant county engineer. That has been open since last June. So we break it out. So the maintenance foreman is in charge of 11 motor grader operators. The road foreman is in charge of 8 maintenance workers. The shop foreman is made up of himself and a diesel mechanic. Our engineering technicians, which we have 5 of, are also in charge of any summertime engineering aids that we're able to get. Our sign foreman also has a seasonal assistant. Typically, it's one of the 8 maintenance workers. Our office manager and administrative assistant, and then also our highway accountant. So a little bit about what we do. So on the maintenance side, there's 21 full-time employees. We provide maintenance on county gravel and 27 townships. So out of the reason that we have 11 motor graders is we're comprised of 11 districts averaging over 130 miles per district. And of that, 749.5 miles are township maintenance. So we obviously, which is more apparent now than ever, we do a lot of snow plowing. We do ditch mowing twice a year, one being top cut, which is usually around the 4th of July. And then later in the fall, we do full cut, which is the entire ditch. We do a lot of culvert replacements. We were able to purchase a new backhoe 4 years ago, and we try to do as many culvert replacements as we can. We do a lot of patching, a lot of crack filling, and as we're able to, we do have stockpiles of gravel and try to gravel as much county roads as we can. The shop, so there are 2 employees in the shop, as I mentioned, a shop foreman and a diesel mechanic. So they do a little bit of everything. Fleet maintenance, this does not comprise all of our equipment, but just kind of a general overview. We have 12 motor graders, 13 tandem trucks, 5 tractors, 2 payloaders, 25 pickups and SUVs. Also, we do a lot of fabrication in-house, a lot of welding. Basically, our shop foreman can build about anything, and he's really, really handy. At one point in time, and during a storm this winter, we had 6 trucks down at one point in time. So these 2 guys do an awesome job at keeping our fleet running, and we wouldn't be able to do it without them. On the engineering side, so we have 5 technicians, and then anywhere from 2 to 4 summertime interns. So we handle all of the construction inspection in-house. This includes testing and general inspection. We also, the engineering technicians also take the access permits as they come in. They deal with utility permits, plan design, working closely with me, and then also bridge inspection. So in total, our system is made up of 335 bridges. This includes bridges, box culverts, pipes. We have 1 program administrator, and this has changed in the past few years. So we now have 2 team leaders. So I was able to take the bridge inspection course this past spring, and then we also sent 1 more technician to the class in December. So he's got to train for 4 years under a team leader, which can either be me or the main bridge inspector, Seth. And then we're also planning to send a few more technicians as time allows, because MnDOT actually started sponsoring that class, which is usually about $2,000. So we just have to pay the room and board for that bridge inspector to take that class. On the administration side, so when we're fully staffed, we have 2 registered engineers. Our highway accountant, Ann, keeps everything moving, coding everything, paying all the bills. She does an excellent job at the township analysis numbers that I brought here a few weeks ago. And she really, time card, she does everything. She's a rock star. Our 2 front office staff, our office manager and admin assistant, so they handle moving permits, dust control, annual permits, county graveling, road closures and news flashes, and probably the most important, especially in storms, they take a lot of phone calls and make sure that whatever the issue this resident is seeing gets sent to the right person and taken care of in a timely manner. Our sign department is made up of 1 full-time sign foreman. So our longtime sign foreman, Brad McDonald, he retired in May. So Josh Doxey took over for him, and he's been doing a phenomenal job. We do have 1 part-time summer helper for him, which is a maintenance worker. So he's in charge of the maintenance of 8,329 signs throughout the county. We also do township signing if requested. I know we helped probably 4 townships last year with different things. We do have a sign management software, so this ensures Minnesota MN-MUTCD compliance. We also do traffic control for pavement testing. And a couple years ago, we did buy a couple portable message boards, so we've been using those a lot for construction projects. We used them for the bike marathon last year, and then if we ever know a road closure is coming up, we're able to put those signs out in advance, as well as put it on our social media pages. So the sign department's also in charge of mailbox repair on a winter like this. Obviously, our list is very long. I think last time we were up to almost 70 mailboxes that were damaged. A lot of times it's just from flying snow and there's really nothing we can do about it. But if the resident does have a swing away mailbox, we do repair that at no cost to the resident. And then also during flooding events, our sign department handles all of the road closures and then works with our front office staff to update our map, which the sheriff's department uses. And it's just, we also help townships as far as making sure that any roads that they close are also on our flood map.
Excuse me, just a minute, the mailbox repair. If it's not a swing away, or we don't repair it, or?
Not if if it was hit with flying snow, we do not repair it, but we will. So one thing that's in our mailbox policy is if that mailbox was damaged and the resident is willing to purchase a swing away, which I believe is a little over $80, we will install it at no cost.
Okay, thank you.
So just a little overview of what our roadway network is made up of. So first of all is county state aid highways. So this is funded mainly with the gas tax and some wheelage tax. So we do have 404 miles of county state aid highways. 272 of them are paved and 132 are gravel. And then county roads is made up of 337 miles, 16 are paved and 321 are gravel. And any construction on those is funded with local dollars. Some 2022 maintenance highlights. So in 2022, we had 2,955 hours of snow removal, 4,549 hours of blading gravel roads, $517,082.94 of fuel expenditures just between motor graders and tandem trucks. We bought a reclaimer a couple years ago that we've been working on kind of taking out curb and gutter and reclaiming some of our shoulders on our gravel roads. So this past summer, we did 32 miles of this. We had 13 plus miles of crack filling. And then thanks to you guys, we also implemented a CDL license program. So one employee has completed that program and got his Class A successfully. And then we have one current employee that's enrolled that has a Class B and is working towards his Class A. Some 2022 construction highlights. So we had it was a really busy construction year. We had 22 and a half miles of overlays. We completed 3 township bridge designs. We did preliminary surveys for 2023 projects, one of them being the one that was let today. We had 111 bridge inspections. And we also had, like I mentioned earlier, 2 newly certified bridge inspectors, one being myself and then one that is going to be starting his 4-year training underneath a team leader. We also completed design for 2023 and 2024 construction projects, something I did just so we can be flexible in terms of when bids come in. If bids come in lower, we are ready to bid out another project. And then we also overhauled the 5-year plan. The engineering technicians helped me a lot with that. New construction, so this is the Comstock building. So Comstock and Georgetown were both new buildings that we put up this year and are currently in. And then Ullin, the slab was poured, and that'll be constructed sometime in the coming months. New cold storage building was also completed. I included this picture just to show you kind of the struggles that went into the cold storage building. They had basically all of the trusses set. And one of the days this fall when the winds were extremely high, the entire thing collapsed. So that was an insurance claim for them. We weren't able to move into our cold storage building until way later than expected, and there's still some concrete work to finish this spring. And then also the salt tent. So we are replacing our salt tent. So the footings were poured this fall, and then once winter weather quits, that contractor will move back in, tear down the tent, and we'll start construction on that. I did include also a historical state aid construction allotment. As you can see, 2023 is down a little bit from 2022. And once I get the bid numbers from today put into our 5-year plan, I'll also share that with highway tracking and then bring it back to this board as well. A little bit of a look ahead at 2023. So this is a picture of the North Broadway Bridge removal that they're currently working on. This picture was taken yesterday, I believe. So they do have a barge set and they're working on saw cutting currently. We had the CASA 18 mill and overlay, which was awarded last week. The CASA 26 project, which was bid today. We are doing an HSIP striping project, which is every 2 years. We do 6-inch edge line. That's paid for with federal dollars. and then we come back and do the center skip as part of that. One thing we're looking at is, so currently we have GPS equipment in all of our blades, which is a really big tool as far as snow removal. And we've been looking at it just because obviously it doesn't paint the whole picture. So I did get a quote, and it definitely within my budget that I'm going to be able to put GPS in all of our tandem trucks as well. And that's something we could share with the sheriff's department, and if they're ever dealing with a call, they can see exactly where a truck or a blade is. And it kind of has a breadcrumb trail, where you can see exactly where that truck has been and make sure miles aren't missed. And then, so our pavement management website, we've been working on that a lot this winter. So every 2 years, MnDOT drives all of our roads with a pavement van that has sensors that measures cracks, rutting, and this website will help us kind of make sure that everything in our 5-year plan is warranted and that we're making the right decisions moving forward. In the coming months, I will also be bringing the 5-year plan back to this board for a public meeting and for approval. In the sign department, we're in year 3 of 4 of the blue fire number replacements. After this year, we'll only have 2 townships left. We're also, equipment-wise, we did get word yesterday, we're in line to get 2 Kenworth trucks, either in 3rd quarter or 4th quarter, depending on pricing. If you remember, a couple years ago, we decided to move to Kenworth because we were having a lot of issues with wiring harnesses and Freightliners, and the one Kenworth we have has been working out really, really well. So hopefully prices allow us to do the same thing again moving forward. And here's a picture of this was last year's flood event, which this is the pipe on 26 going into the Red River. We were able to fix this, but I think it was just kind of a cool picture to show. I guess any questions for me?
I was just wondering why you're not requesting someone to hire to get all this data that you just presented. I don't know who keeps track of all that, but that's a lot of stuff to present there, and excellent work there.
Thank you.
Yes, Dave.
Yeah, just an observation, having listened to your presentation and Kim's, I think it's important for us to kind of keep in front of mind how necessary it is to give our departments the technology they need. You're getting a lot of stuff. That's the ability to track where the plows have been. We just heard a presentation on where the technology is there to provide our businesses and our real estate people a lot more information. Mm-hmm. I think it's just important we keep in front of mind that it's essential we continue to support those kind of things. Is there anything you've got in mind that technology-wise that is on the horizon that we may want to be aware of?
The GPS is the main thing right now. As far as like technology, our survey, we bought a new rover and a new total station, which is a robotic total station. So survey-wise, we're pretty much, technology-wise, as top of the line as we can handle currently.
Well, it keeps impressing me how much more effective and how much more we can provide to the public.
Also on the sign note, we were able to purchase a reflectometer a couple years ago, which that enabled, if you remember, 2 years ago we were going to do stop sign replacements, and we borrowed Cass County's reflectometer, measured the stop signs we were going to replace, and they were still well above standard. So we kind of shifted gears, went to the blue fire numbers, and then we were able to purchase our own reflectometer, which keeps us in compliance, and we're able to check signs whenever needed.
Really appreciate the skill in knowing your field to identify those things. It makes it more effective.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I might also comment, in terms of the communication and the potential to have GPS in those machines, you know, people that live in the country understand that they probably won't be able to get out for a little longer after a snow event. And if we were to have the GPS, what routes are open, or
Yep.
a site that folks could go to for what's open, I think would be really helpful. I also just want to comment on how proactive you and your department are in mitigating after snow events. Certainly, you're busting open roads that are drifting right now quite substantially. But also making sure you're getting those blowers out and blowing back intersections and potential areas. You're just doing a really great job of managing that. I, as noted, just got back from Montana, and people keep saying, well, why are the interstates closing to the degree that they have been this year? Because the drifts going over the interstates are 5 to 10 feet
Yep.
deep right now. And it doesn't take a whole lot of wind to close those roads, even in Clay County. And you're doing a really great job, so thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Sometimes you can tell how good a department's doing by the number of phone calls you get.
Or don't get
So far, I haven't got any this year, so
Well, that's good to hear.
glad I took my numbers out.
Mr. Chair.
unlisted.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Justin, yesterday at the township officers meeting too, there was an awful lot of really positive compliments to you and the highway department. As what's been said, this has been a bad winter for snow and wind, and to keep up, certainly as Commissioner Mojo said, some of the rural areas, they certainly don't expect to get out right away, but they were really pleased with the efforts that you've done. That's another thing that we could probably forget to talk about in our committee reports, but you've done really well, and I have received a couple of calls this year in terms of, and I've
Yep.
reached out to you right away, and within hours of that conversation, these were with certain people in the rural areas who were having difficulties, and with hours, I heard back from those residents saying, "Oh, they're here," and I explained to them that the demand is high. We can't be every place at once, so.
Definitely.
And I thank you to you and all of your staff for the work that you do.
Yeah. Those guys have been working some crazy hours lately and definitely couldn't do it without them.
You'll be doing it again
Yep.
and again.
Yeah.
anybody else? Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, same thing. I want to echo what Kevin just said. I too have received calls. I talked to you, an immediate response and a call back from the person that had called me and saying just thank you. So I want to say from him to you, thank you for getting back to him right away.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for an
I-
excellent
I
report.
did have one other thing, along with the GPS too, we're also, the company that provides those, we're also kind of looking at, just in a couple of the trucks that drive some of the main routes, they do have cameras that go with them too. So I think that's something we might look at, so we can share on social media what the plow's actually seen. So obviously in some of these snow events, there shouldn't have been any travel, and maybe if it can prevent one or two people from traveling, I think it would be worth it.
Okay. Well, again, thank you very much for your
I
presentation.
just thought of one other thing too, Mr. So, and this goes to Commissioner Ebinger, one of your conversation about the technology. One of the things, it wasn't too many years ago when we were going through more significant flooding, we also, your survey equipment was really upgraded to the latest technology in terms of when the surveyors have to be on the ground. The technology has really improved there and helpful, and I'm assuming that's going to be the case again this spring. I know you even talked with township officers about, along
Yep.
with Gabe,
Yep.
about,
So Gabe and I have been talking the last couple weeks, and we've been
Yeah.
kind of working on plans. And one of the big things with some of these events is making sure you get pictures before the event happens. So we've already been working on that. The problem areas we know are going to come.
good work.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Okay, with that, we'll go into the the extension office. Lisa, you want to bring your people up there and...
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to provide you with an update about the local extension office. Just
Jackie has to show you where we hide all our stuff, you know.
right. And, all right. So for our update, my name's Lisa Logring. I'm one of the regional directors in the Northwest. I share 21 counties with Cecilia Amadou, and so I'm filling in with Clay County and with the Moorhead Regional Office through second week in May, I believe. Cecilia will be back. So today joining me are our 4-H Extension educators, Mindy Grant and Macy Miller. And so they're gonna be doing their impact report today, but I thought I would cover a few things before I turn it over to them. We have a couple of additional extension educators within the Clay County Extension Office. Randy Nelson was here in December and gave an update at that time. And then we have Rosie Gonzalez, who's our SNAP Ed educator. And so Rosie covers health and nutrition, and she's also based out of the county office. We have one new employee who was here at the December meeting also, Dawn Lovett. Dawn, as well as Macy, Mindy, and Randy, all are on the MOA. And then Rosie is actually funded by the Farm Bill. So she is officed in the Moorhead Regional Office, the Clay County office, which is a little bit different than many of our other SNAP Ed educators who are in regional offices. But a few things, just like our educators who are in our county office, 65% of our educators are researchers, staff across Extension. 65% of the 800 actually work in outstate Minnesota. And so they're working outside of the Twin Cities. They are working in the 15 regional offices, the 87 county offices. They're working on campuses. They're working in research and outreach centers across Minnesota. Really bringing that research that the university is doing and the knowledge right to Minnesotans. As the primary engagement arm of the university, Extension reaches out to citizens and stakeholders and giving those citizens and stakeholders as volunteers a say in what they're getting for programming. And so state law actually mandates that we do have county extension committees. And in every one of our 87 counties. We've got our county extension committees always have 2 commissioners, 1 auditor or an auditor designee, as well as 6 other citizens from the county who are participating in that county, in the extension committee. There are also other advisory committees, including the Citizens Advisory Committee, which is the committee that actually reports to Dean Durgan and gives her feedback from the counties. Last year, we had all of those volunteers, in addition to our 4-H volunteers, our master gardeners, our master naturalists, actually totaled over 43,000 hours and over $1 million hours worth of service. So lots of volunteers. We do have 4 different centers within Extension, and I think I've got first ones. Youth development 4-H is actually covered under youth development. And that's really the premier part of youth development. But we also have other courses and resources for youth professionals, people who are working with youth and other programs perhaps, teachers, people who are volunteers, as well as families and young people who do access those resources also. Our second center is Ag, Food, and Natural Resources. We call it AF&R. This is where Randy Nelson falls. So you've heard all of his great work related to the Master Gardener program. In addition to that, we also have the Master Naturalist program and the Aquatic Invasive Species Detectors. Our Family Development program is where Rosie falls. And so they do a lot of really neat work. Anything that are issues related to families, which is Just about anything you can think of can come up with in family development. A lot of things revolving around financial education, food access, and that does include SNAP Ed, but our SNAP Ed educators work not only in schools, but they work with daycare providers. They work with individuals who are trying to prevent diabetes. There are lots of different neat programs that they're doing, as well as parenting and co-parenting education that falls within family development. There are 2 other centers that fall within extension. One is community vitality. Those educators fall primarily under 3 different subtopics within community vitality, and that's our community economists, leadership and civic engagement, and tourism. And so we do a lot of really neat education in all of those different subsections. And then there's one more that is not necessarily a center. It's actually called RSDP, Regional Sustainable Development Partnership. It's a little bit different than our centers in that they have money. They have small grants to be able to offer. And then the neat thing about RSDP is that they're only in the outskirts. They're only in greater Minnesota. They're not in the Twin Cities at all. They're a partnership between the university, a community entity, and then usually a group of students. And so it might be, it could be a park that maybe is a natural play space where we've done some of these, where there might be a neighborhood that wants to renovate a park. They want to, rather than putting in, the typical kinds of things like the play structures, they want to do something that's more natural. We've done several of these in the area. And, sometimes then partnering with public health, partnering with people from the neighborhood, partnering from the College of Art and Design, and partnering, in this case, happened to be some UMC students who built a stage for the natural play space. But it's kind of a neat entity. They do actually focus on 4 topics: agriculture and food systems, clean energy, natural resources, and resilient communities. And so, although we organize ourselves within centers, that's not really how people think about it. They think about there are issues, and they have issues that they would like to have addressed. And so, rather than thinking about those centers, even our website doesn't, you don't go looking for, the Center for Community Vitality when you're trying to navigate the website. You think more about like, what are those issues? So the issues might be food. So they're more overarching issues. And food actually comes under food systems for RSDP, but it comes under ag, food, and natural resources, obviously. It comes under family development, under SNAP Ed. And so kind of wrapping around an issue and dealing with it with whomever is most appropriate, or in combination with different places or different centers. So it could be food, it could be community, it could be health and wellness, it could be mental health. So those are all topics that are more overarching and that we do cover. I'd say that the Clay County office is unique in that it is near, not only in Moorhead, but it's in the same building across the hall from the Moorhead Regional Office, which is, I think, really a benefit for both offices. And then additionally, I would say a huge benefit that we've learned in the last 3 years is that when we're thinking about some of those topics, it's really nice to be able to work with our colleagues across the state and sometimes beyond our state to be able to do that. And so we work differently, and even though COVID is less than what it was, we are still collaborating across the state every day. So, and with that, I'm going to introduce Mindy and Macy to do their impact report.
We have a different, PowerPoint. Okay, so like Lisa had said, I'm Macy and this is Mindy, and we work for 4-H. And so in this presentation, we're going to kind of go over kind of the yearly highlights of what we do.
Yeah, so in 2022, we had 470 youth participate in 4-H, and we had just over 100 volunteers that helped make all of that happen. This is actually, the youth number represents about a 20% increase from 2021, and that was mostly through partner programs. We were able to have agreements with different community organizations, including all of our school districts, and that was something that came back in full force from after the pandemic. So we were really happy to be able to serve kids in that manner again this year. And our volunteers and youth leaders work together. They practice new skills and bring new lessons to their clubs. And you can see an example of that in the photo. This is our annual volunteer training, where we bring different activities and ideas for our volunteers.
So in 4-H, we use, it's called the Thrive model. And so the idea is if you find elements within each of these areas, you know you're going to have good programming for the youth, and they're really going to benefit from the 4-H program that you're holding.
So the first one that we want to talk about is Sparks. Sparks is just something interesting, something that pulls the kids in and makes them want to learn and continue learning. So that's the base that we're talking about. We want kids to develop a spark or to find a spark and keep learning. And 96% of youth learn new things in 4-H. We do surveys of our programs and of our participants every year. 96% claim that they learned something new in 4-H. And we're really proud of that, and that's what keeps bringing them back, I think, is having that something new, something to learn about, something that sparks their interest. And it feeds their curiosity. And there's a comment here, it shows that our 4-H programming is helping broaden their horizons and their perspectives, helping them think in new ways about their world. After a lesson on desert biomes, we had a youth go home to his mom and say, "Guess what? Did you know people lived in the desert?" Which is just an interesting way to see a youth perspective and how they learn and how they incorporate the information that we're bringing to them.
Next is youth belonging. And just like Sparks, this is important that youth feel connected to their community and the people they are with. So one place that youth can belong is through clubs. It's just a kind of a group of people, and they help integrate people in the community with their club. So the picture below here, you can see a club doing a group activity. They're painting. They had brought a volunteer in to kind of lead that activity. So they all get to connect with each other as they go through that painting. The one on the right is a picture from our after-school program. One of the quotes here is, "I have been in 3 4-H's." That came from a 3rd grader who had done a couple different after-school programs, and he was really proud to have been in 3 different of the after-school programs.
A third way that we have, that we reach youth is through engagement. Young people that are in 4-H are 3 times more likely to be engaged in their communities through service. This year, 4 out of 5 4-Hers volunteered as part of 4-H, and through volunteer work, they get connected with their community. They learn how they can be change makers and how they relate to the local area. 4-H fundraising in Clay County directly supports our clubs with their community service projects. This past year, we had community beautification projects, school garden projects, and sensory tables for developmentally challenged youth. From the gardening group, making a garden felt good because kids younger than me get to plant and harvest food like other schools. That's a quote from Ellie, who helps build school gardens. So we really encourage the kids to get out, get into their communities, and clubs are a great way of organizing that for our youth.
And then the last part of this Thrive model is relationships. So youth are able to connect with others in their community. The example we have here is the Humboldt Community Garden. They're a club in Barnesville, and they planted a community garden at the fairgrounds. And they were able to learn about kind of the food pantry and what it means to maybe not have enough food and what they can do to help. So they were able to donate 130 pounds of fresh potatoes, green peppers, and onions to the Barnesville area food pantry. So there you see them pictured there with their produce.
I just want to thank you for helping support and Minnesota youth and helping them thrive. We appreciate the partnership with the Clay County Commission and spending time with us today. If you have any questions.
Okay. No, thank you for the report, and it's nice to know where our money is going to, and what it's being used for, and very interesting. Thank you very much for that.
Do you have summer programming, or I know you have summer programming, but sorry, like camps that you'll be advertising in? I know we talked about this at a meeting, community ed.
Our camps will be coming out soon.
Okay.
We have a couple of camps in the northwest region of Minnesota.
Yep.
And we work with other counties to put those on. So there'll be a camp at Santa Lake for grades 3 through 6, and then we'll have an outdoor adventures camp,
Great,
which is specifically related to shooting sports, wildlife, nature.
great. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes.
So, going back a few years, I had a son that was involved in 4-H, probably I think he was buddies with Commissioner Mojo over there at the time, and they were in the ambassador program, right?
Right.
Is that still around? How are things going for the planning of the fair? That's always a big event for 4-H youth.
AC can speak to the Green Team ambassadors first.
So we call them Green Team now. They don't like the term ambassadors, so they've chosen Green Team, so that's what we go with.
Oh, sorry, I
that's
apologize to them.
Each county is a little different. We kind of have two different groups right now. The one that helps at the fair, so they kind of they work in the summer. And then we have like a fall, winter, spring one that we just kind of plan events for. We usually do the second Saturday of each month. This month we had to postpone due to weather, but they're going to go to CCRI and prepare some meals for that group. So we do, service projects. Sometimes it's a fun get-together where they can kind of build relationships and bond. Sometimes it's a learning experience, so we try to mix it up and see what they want to do.
And yes, we are already working on the Clay County Fair. We started a couple weeks ago. It starts with just the general planning of a few things, the food stand, schedules, what all we're gonna do, and getting judges for all of the different project areas that we have. So we're looking forward to a successful fair season.
Well, you certainly are a big part of that fair, that really makes that fair go there, so it's.
Yeah, it's a beautiful partnership. I mean, it's a big part of the fair that people see, but it's really important for our program as well, because that is where our kids get to showcase their work for the whole year. So we really appreciate having that space and being able to be out there, and the support from the Fair Board in maintaining all those
Okay.
spaces for us.
Any more questions? If not, Lisa, and Mindy, and Tracy, thank you so much for your report and keeping us up to date. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I think we're going to go into closed session for a while. Yes.
And then, Mr. Chair, I'd move we close subject to section 13D-05, subdivision 3B.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion second to close. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I guess we're back on. We'll open the meeting back up again. I guess the next thing on the agenda is committee reports. Kevin, you want to start it?
Sure. On March 14th, we had a highway tracking committee meeting, and we talked about a few different issues regarding the diversion authority and MOUs for reimbursements, the next steps involved with that. And Justin had talked about a meeting that he had with Holy Cross Township, and they have an issue where they want to keep a couple of entrances open, I think, into that cemetery, so they continue to work on that. We got an update on the Moorhead Joint Facility, meeting discussing Moorhead's letter, that they were asking to no longer be part of that facility. Township maintenance, we had a couple of issues with township roads dealing with snow. We talked about that this morning. And then Justin did an update based on the bids that have been done to this point on the 5-year plan to show how that impacted the 5-year plan. And then there was more discussion on the North Broadway Bridge replacement that he was meeting with the city. Then on the 16th, we did have the bid opening for the substance use facility. There was, that was held here, and this room was full of contractors. It was quite interesting to see the amount of people who were involved and wanted to be part of that project. We did get, it was bid in several pieces, and those are being tabulated. There are some items that came in higher than expected, and our committee is going to meet this afternoon to go over those and to see what sort of additional value engineering we can have, because right now the current bid is over what the project projection was going to be. And so until we have that meeting and have those discussions, really probably not going to get into too much of the dollar amounts right now. Just to give you an example, I think there was a deal right now just on a generator, a single generator. The bid that came in was probably $500,000 more than what was anticipated. There's discussions about if you go with 2 smaller generators versus 1 bigger one, you could have a considerable one of save. So those are the types of deals that we want to talk about this afternoon. We're going to have Klein McCarthy and Gertz and others involved with that discussion to hopefully fine tune this. I think Steve is going to be bringing something before the full board next week in terms of the bid. And so we want to make sure that we've looked at all of these areas where it's been over what we anticipated and see if we can have some alternatives to that before that Steve presents that. Then on, excuse me just for a second here. Then on the, yesterday I did attend the township officers meeting, a few things there. Commissioner Mojo talked about the Emerald Ash Borer. Randy Nelson was there, and he did have some conversation about that and how it spread, and obviously this is a beetle, and they say that beetles can fly, but maybe to the extent that their distance might be a mile. But part of what they suggest is if you do have, I think even on the whole western half of the county, because it's been found here that there's basically a moratorium on taking firewood out of the area. So I think that's important for people to understand. There's an awful lot of ash trees in Moorhead too, and in the entire county for that. As a matter of fact, Clay County Soil and Water, that's what they used to plant. And then another issue that Gabe gave a report on flooding, and what's probably going to come before this board next week, and rightly so, is and I don't want to get people in a panic mode, but we're going to probably be looking at a state of emergency declaration. And the reason that we do that is that's basically help start the clock for when we can have qualifying expenses. Gabe is anticipating there certainly will probably be some flooding in some of the rural areas, and those townships through the state of emergency, then some of their planning and flood preparations can start to qualify. So it doesn't mean that we're going to have a massive flood by any means, but it's just a process to go about to where the clock starts for expenses. Another thing, just to talk about, going to Commissioner Mojo's discussion regarding the Greenway space and the Diversion Authority. That was really discussed at and I think I brought it up in my last diversion report. is that there has been a request for recreational use, that there should be some things going on there. And we certainly recognize the significant work that MetroCog had previously done in studying that. There is a really large interest from a lot of different entities in having some sort of a recreational feature through that process. It's something that the Corps doesn't do as part of their project, but it's something we have the ability to do. And so what we did do is we sent that to the newly formed Diversion Authority Planning Commission to help establish what all entities, whether it's parks and all these different entities who should be part of trying to come up with a plan. This is something that's going to take some time to do. One thing that we have to keep in mind is that this has to fall outside of the current project and what's being done by all of the people who hold the current project contracts. So we can't, whatever we do, we can't be interfering with the project that's being built. So it basically would be something that we can incorporate after the fact. Now, if there's certain small things that you could do that might change some things, that's could be looked at, but that could alter the contract as well. Then let's see. I wanted to also thank all of our staff that were there and gave presentations. There were an awful lot of good presentations there, and the more I thought about maybe sometime what we should do is update them on areas. We talked a couple of times, I think both Frank and Darren in their reports talked about the substance use facility, and I don't know that we really explained to them what it was replacing. That it's something in place of the detox facility that we have, and we didn't really talk about the financial how it's being paid for. So are they out there now thinking that this $15 million deal is going to all fall on the taxes? But they, maybe we could have done a little bit better talking about the ARPA funds that are going into that and the opioid settlement dollars that are going to go into that. Those are things that we can maybe follow up with them on. So, but other than that, it was the water issue that's in rural northern Clay County. I think it's, we did have a presentation before, and Clay County didn't take an opinion either way, and at the time I think it was rightfully so, because we just didn't have enough information, and there certainly is a lot more information coming forward, and it's going to be interesting to hear about how the governance would be once a judge would establish the district. So I look forward to those conversations, and I know we've all heard from some people that there's some interest in some of our small communities in northern Clay County as well as residents. So it's something that we should be dealing with. And that concludes my report.
Dave. Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 16th, I attended the joint meeting of the Executive Board and the Board of Greater Fargo-Moorhead EDC. Paul did a good job of giving an overview of some, but there's a lot of moving parts going on right now. We have got North Dakota has just passed legislation for a job development authority within counties, and Cass County is going to move forward with a effort to get that set up where they're able to put millage out to support job development in their community. And as Commissioner Krabanoff mentioned, we're currently included in the 5-county Department of Commerce group over in North Dakota. They've been given $460,000 to represent 5 counties, including Cass, And since the EDA is part of it, Cass has counted Clay County in the region for some of the development that's going on. How that's going to be worked out, and if we're going to have to come up with a JPA or some other means to get it rolling, is a topic for future discussion. Also, I was very impressed with the business development that's being done in the three areas that they've covered, ag tech, biodefense, and then the autonomous systems and UAS, the uncrewed aircraft systems. All three of those initiatives are really taking hold. A lot of it's through NDSU, but those are things that really affect our rural Clay County areas as well. These are things that can be very beneficial. So I hope we can get a little more engagement on this side of the river with that. Moving on the 20th, I attended the township officers' annual spring meeting. It's already been discussed. Again, I really want to reiterate what the other commissioners have said. We've got some talented employees, and Darren, you did a great job filling in. It was great to hear the report from our county engineer and from the sheriff. They covered a lot of essential stuff, and Gabe Tweeton's discussion about upcoming floods. I think it's worth mentioning what he reiterated to the township officials is that any flood damage that happens out there needs to be reported, because we're working towards the county, the city, the townships all have to hit a certain threshold to kick FEMA in. And the better we report that, the quicker that's going to happen. And also areas that people think are prone to get damaged in a flood should be photographed so you can have a before and after for FEMA. That expedites the process. And everybody that's been through a flood knows, I think Kevin's probably an expert in that area. Once FEMA gets here, they really are the cavalry coming over the hill, but they're also expecting documentation and the paperwork to be right. And we're lucky to have Gabe. I think he's going to work closely with the townships and work with our other entities within the county to help with that response. I had to duck out a little early from the township to go remotely and get to the Dancing Skies Area Agency on Aging had a virtual meeting. Elected new officials. They also addressed a budget carryover we've got in some of the federal funding, and we had to come up with a plan to distribute that money this year. There was a reduction of services due to COVID. A lot of the driving services, the transportation services, and meal services were limited. So the funding that's left over, there's places it needs to go, but we need to have a plan to carry it over and expend it by 2024. They went over that. Discussed Senate File 2244, House File 2523. Basically, it's going to hopefully get 20 million more into senior nutrition. The ability, the funding that comes from the feds really has not increased per capita in the last 20 years. So there's got to be some funding adjustment on that. It's difficult enough in an area like Clay County, but in some of these really small counties with small towns where there's no restaurants, there's no church kitchens that can be viewed as commercial kitchens where food can be produced. Sometimes they've got to transport senior meals in from 2 or 3 counties away. And the facilities aren't there. The transportation issues are a problem for seniors that are still trying to remain in their houses. There's a lot of issues that they're addressing right now. I think it's going to be, it really is in need of additional funding. And a couple other issues, but that's kind of going into the weeds. That completes my report.
Okay, I too attended the Highway Tracking Committee meeting last Tuesday. The only addition I would add, we talked about those snow fences. if you drive along Highway 10, you can see some of the snow fences that have been up. They cost about $250,000 per mile, so when you say, boy, we should have more of them, well, you know, we need a lot more money too. So, but I think they're really worthwhile, but it's inexpensive. Also, we talked about using the dozers to help the townships out, but there again, you need someone to operate the dozers where our people are pretty busy, just taking care of road maintenance right now. And yes, we did talk about the 5-year plan. We're seeing how bids come in. Probably we can move some other projects up a year or two. Also, the township meeting, the one thing I got, it was interesting to see the extra, not the extra, but other people talking at the township meeting, like the FM ambulance was there, the West Central Regional Water District was there, and I hope we do get them here soon, because I think we need to know, is it gonna cost the county anything, or is it just a user thing that's gonna, how it's gonna get paid for? You know, I had one request, though, is we do have future township meetings, which I know we will, but they'd like the watershed board there sometime. I don't know who invites them. I suppose the township is the one who does the inviting, but it's probably just a reminder for us, when there's a township board meeting, we should probably request the watershed board to get in there, you know, but I think there was a very good presentation. Randy Nelson there was good talking about the ash trees and stuff like that, and all our people give good reports, and I don't know whether we need, I know we talked to Kevin a little bit this morning, we probably need a different place. I don't know, it was sort of, probably got a little crowded there yesterday, just sitting there with chairs, probably sometimes with places where you can have a table in front of you, or it's nice and convenient if you're gonna have a 4-hour meeting, something like that, and it's just something to lean on, or whatever the case may be, you know, but it's a nice place to have a meeting, but for that big of a meeting, we probably need a different one. My opinion too. I mean, I don't know what Kevin and I are going to comment on that.
Yeah, I agree. I've heard that too from a few of the township officers that were there that felt it was a little bit crowded. They felt jammed in, but the whole purpose of that was it was really an opportunity to get all of the township officers to see the facility. And I've toured it plenty. I didn't go on the tours yesterday, but my assumption would be is that they found it pretty impressive once they took those tours. So I think, and I agree, obviously it's up to the township boards to determine their location, but I think Dilworth or Glendon are good alternatives to go back to.
All right, my report, Steve?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I have a short report that's gone this past week, and again, thank you guys for that time off. The week prior to that, I met with Darren in regards to ongoing social work mediation discussions, hoping to have a resolution to that final union here soon. We had county management on the 8th. We talked about risk management, Strive update, our upcoming intergovernmental training or conference that we'll be hosting. Human Resources provided an update, and we also talked about electronic signatures, what path we're going to move forward as a county on that. On the 8th, I also participated in recorders meetings of the items that were here before the board. Met with Joe Olson that afternoon in regards to some ongoing space issues at the Family Service Center, specifically in regards to public health and social services and the juvenile center. We'll have a building committee meeting coming up here in the next week or so to talk about that. And then I did have a brief discussion last Wednesday with Steve Gertz in regards to the bid opening process. I do, in the water district, I did talk with that Stephen Slick from AE2S, and we will have him on the agenda here, I believe, as early as possibly next week. So that concludes my report.
Okay, anything else someone wants to bring forward?
Mr. Chair,
yes.
if I could just I wanted to just give a little highlight and kind of a shout out really to something I saw with good community involvement and good policing. I spent about an hour and a half yesterday. There was a Griffin Court update at the I'm blanking on which church it was at, but it was the Moorhead Police Department working with community members, and they've been working over the last year in the area of Griffin Court, which is 30th Avenue South and 17th and 18th Street South in Moorhead, and just focused policing where they're working to look at areas where they know there might be a higher crime rate. We had some unfortunate murders that were right in that area in 2021, and so they took an effort to work with community members, some of those businesses, as well as apartment buildings that are in there, and worked with them to help clean up the area, to put effort into security systems within the businesses and buildings, where the police were reaching out into there, doing some great community outreach, bike repair, the Take Back the Night piece, a lot of different things of community involvement. And I just, one piece, when you look at calls for service in that area, they were averaging anywhere from 50 to 60. And if you look at January of last year, where there were 65 calls for service in that month, and there were 9 this January of 2023, and 44 in February, there were 7. And so the decrease by focused patrolling, getting in that area, talking with people in there, working with those businesses, and sitting in there and listening to those community members talk with the police, and the police engaging and talking with them about things that were working. It was really encouraging just to hear and see that. So just one good news story that I thought I'd bring up to the board.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you there. We're adjourned.